Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Latino Vote podcast. I finally got my microphone fixed so Mike Madrid wouldn't come in here and try to open up this show with that janky microphone that he has out in Sacramento that I think he has wired together with 2 tin cups, but I am not going to make fun because I was literally using like an iPhone mic last time, but we are back. And luckily, Mike Madrid, nothing has happened in the last week in political news.
That was a hell of an introduction. I think that was all one sentence. If I
didn't even breathe. Did you see it? I didn't even breathe.
You didn't breathe. You didn't blink either. For those of you watching at home, yeah, God, wow. I can't believe how much has gone on, and it's only the middle of July. It's going to be a long, hot summer. This is going to be a campaign like no other. But I'm looking forward to getting into it and talking to you about all of the dynamics and understanding how you see things, how I see things, and between the two of us, maybe there's a little bit of wisdom in there.
First of all, I need you to put some respect on my name because I need you to understand some things that went down last weekend at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus PAC retreat.
Spill the tea, brother. Spill the tea. Let's hear it.
Here's what went down every year since I've been going, and I've been going for almost 15 years, every year, where the caucus PAC gets together. We meet at this place out in Maryland. We take our families, the kids. There's a pool. It's really a family retreat. Everybody goes out there. There's all the kids who've grown up together out there now. It was really emotional to see the stories we were telling about these now 15-year-old kids who started coming when they were like 3 or 4. But we have this volleyball game. This is what I want to talk about, where members of Congress put together their friends and family, and after dinner on Saturday night, we all play each other in volleyball. Now, this was a tradition that Ben Ray Lujan started back in the early 2000s. It's become a thing where there was T-shirts and there's a trophy. There's a trophy now that's 3 foot tall that they literally keep in the congressional offices. And the bragging rights behind this thing has become, as you can imagine, with politicians, very, very important.
Oh, yeah.
Well, every year I put together a team with Tony Cardenas or with this member or that member, and we've won the tournament 4 or 5 times with my teams. But over the last 3 or 4 years, Ruben Gallego's team, because he's as competitive as me, has been the team we've had to go against. Well, last time we were playing, I had Gabe Vasquez, the new member from Southern New Mexico, who me and you love, and I like him. We put a team together in Miami last time we played. He come down with COVID. Chuck now don't have a team because you have to have a member of Congress to do your team.
Huh.
So now, as you know, and everybody here knows, I work for Ruben Gallego. So I put out the text message. I was like, just so you know, cuz we could combine forces here because I literally work for you now and we could put together a team with me and you. And all I'm going to say is we went undefeated through the entire tournament and brought home the big trophy. Anybody that was following me on my Facebook or my Instagram saw that we won the Bowl Pack Championship this weekend. Take that.
Congratulations. That's a big, big, big deal. So this is your 4th victory now?
I think it's 4th.
You're like Argentina in the World Cup, man.
That's right. And for those of you that was watching, you will notice a picture of the old man with blood streaming down my knee, like literally just blood down my knee.
Like Trump.
Yeah, just like Trump. We're going to get to that next. But again, I survived. Trump survived. Will democracy survive? That's a debate for another day. But let's get things kicked off right there for what was crazy. And the thing I want to ask you, Mike, is everybody knows about the assassination attempt on Saturday against Donald Trump. It was horrible for anybody who listened to the president or Donald Trump. Like, we have been warning against stuff like this. Political violence obviously is crazy and should never happen. And folks shooting at each other is just unforgivable. Mike, I want to know where you were. How did you hear the news? How did you react to it? And tell me, kind of walk me through your day when you heard about it and what your thoughts were.
I was down at the house in Mexico trying to unplug for a couple of days after this massive book launch tour.
Mm-hmm.
And was trying to stay off of my phone and get my head clear and get back to recalibrating to, a place of peace and calmness. And the story broke, saw it obviously on Twitter. Then I jumped on CNN and watched it. Was just kind of like shocked and going, where is this? What's going on? What is happening here? And then obviously try to shut Twitter off as quickly as I could because there's nothing good to say in those moments. And there's nothing good that Twitter has to tell you. So you just gotta be calm. You gotta breathe, and you gotta just kind of wait for good information because it's so easy to get bad information so quickly. But that's where I was at that moment. How you were on live TV, I think, weren't you?
It might have been one of the craziest things I've ever lived through, Mike. And I'm not getting emotional. I actually just took some of my protein shake, and sometimes the spices go down the wrong hole. Anyway, I was sitting right here at this table. I was live on CNN, live. And all of a sudden, they come to us, and then they're going to cut from us when he starts speaking, right? So we're on a panel. They said they're going to come back to me because I'm supposed to be on giving reaction to Trump's speech that day, me and a Republican. And I can't see the feed because you know how for those who don't know the business, Mike knows because he's on TV all the time. I could hear the feed and I couldn't see the live shot because of how my camera was set up because I had it set up where I don't see the live feed.
Right.
But I heard everything and it just was the scariest thing because you could hear the gunshots, and it's the thing that they've been playing on CNN on repeat, but I heard it in live and I knew immediately because I've shot guns my whole life. I knew immediately what it was. And then I heard the Secret Service agents in the microphone on the podium saying, get down, get down. And I knew at that point, somebody had a gun and somebody was shooting that gun. And, it's hard to explain the lump I got in my stomach, in my throat. But you just like, I'm in this. Like, I felt like I was in it and I wasn't. People died that day. Like I was just this stupid guy on TV, but being there and hearing it for the first time live in my ear, as they say, was really spooky. It was so spooky for the guy that was there. And his name is, I can't remember his name. He's a Republican from Indiana. He was texting me because he was all shook up because we were both on at the same time. He's like, are you okay? He's like, I'm not okay. And I'm like, I'll be all right. I'm a big boy, but it was really weird. And so hearing it live and knowing what was going down, it scared the shit out of me, just to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's a hell of a moment, hell of a political moment. I mean, political violence, like I said, this country has been plagued by it throughout its history. We have been fortunate that it's been a very, very long time since. But when you have a presidential candidate shot at, that's an extraordinary moment. And for you to be there live on national TV while it's happening is one of those moments that leaves you shook. Completely understand that, brother. So, Chuck, given all that, what do you think the political fallout is? What do you think the political ramifications are?
Look, I shouldn't say this on this podcast, but me and you have prided ourselves on being honest. The moment it happened, it came over my gut that this thing is over. Like, once I knew he survived, once I watched him stand up with blood running down his cheek, pumping his fist in the air, I was like, how do you win? And I know that shouldn't have been my first reaction, but I'm a political consultant like you are. I was like, how do we win? Like, that was the first reaction. Then after I stood back and things happened over days, I'm like, oh, yeah. He's still Donald Trump and we still win. But I think the ramifications are, does he soften? We've been hearing, and we'll get to the RNC convention. Does their message soften? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Can you really make a policy contrast when somebody's been shot at? I think you can. I think they still have huge differences between their visions for America. But I don't think historically we've ever seen anything like this. And I don't want people to tell me about Ronald Reagan in 1981. The internet wasn't alive then, to Mike's point about the visceral and craziness on Twitter. So I'd love to hear your impact. My first impact was, oh my God, we're going to lose. There's no way to beat. Then I was like, oh, okay, he's going to be fine. This guy was crazy. Maybe we could win. What do you think?
I never had that feeling, though I know a lot of people did. I was getting texts from people with the it's over, but fuck, man, the it's over stuff, that especially from some of these, the other Democratic consultants, certainly not yourself, but and Republican consultants who are, pro Biden, some of these never Trump consultants who are like, it's over. And just the bedwetting is just unbelievable. Look, if you understand how freaking calcified this country is, there's a certain staidness and calmness to the storms that are coming. Biden had this disastrous debate. The numbers didn't move. Donald Trump assassination attempt, the numbers didn't move. Guys, the numbers aren't going to move much. And notice something else. I want everybody to pay attention to this. Wherever the media is at, for whatever reason, those numbers do not go up on that person. They go down, which is why it's so damaging, so pernicious for all of these Democrats calling for Biden's continual resignation. It's not just that it's hurting him necessarily, although it is chipping away at Democratic support. It's not hurting him with independents, by the way. It's not hurting them at all. It's consolidating Republicans and it's chipping away nominally at Democrats. But the most damaging thing that it's doing, Chuck, is it's taking the attention off where it should be, which is running offense on Donald Trump. Even when Donald Trump is getting shot, and you hear all these, wackos at the convention talking about him being the next coming of Christ or whatever it is, and he's now a martyr. Nobody believes that shit outside of MAGA world. No one does. As epic as the photo, I guess, was, the mugshot photo was more epic than that. I'm sorry. You're still seeing it more than that. Nobody believes that except for the hardcore base. And that's a symptom of this negatively partisanized environment where I just can't understand for the life of me where these Democrats think that it's somehow helpful to be coming after their own guy. I get it. I get the change. I get that he's an old, feeble man. Agree with it. Understand it. But to be taking your focus off of the ball at this moment in the game is it's fucking criminal. Sorry.
Yeah. And I think that I stand by what I said of having the initial reaction, right? It was the same way I felt when Jeff Weaver called me and said Bernie had just had a heart attack and we're going to have to shut the campaign down. Yeah. I thought there's no way. It's over. We both said it that day. I wrote about this in my book. But, after you have a couple hours of like shock, you clear your head. And that's what I meant by today. I very much think Donald Trump can be beat. But it was just the initial reaction of, I'd never lived through that in a political consultant. I just assume that if my candidate had got shot and survived, there's a million things I could do to make them the next whatever, right? Especially with all the things. But I think you're right. I think there'll be a lot of history. And I couldn't agree more on the baked in. People don't realize, and I've been following your Twitter after the debate and listening to lots of folks and doing a lot of TV. And I think you're right. There is there's a thing out there that people think they understand campaigns, but me and you both know they ain't never run a campaign. But speaking of campaigns, I want to go to topic number 2. Not that we're making a lot of this assassination. I want to get through a lot of this news because I want your opinion on it. And another thing that everybody that knows anything has been pontificating on is, and how many times they've called me and you to ask me and you about Marco Rubio. He picked JD Vance. I want your opinion of JD Vance. I know what your opinion is going to be about. Does it change the electorate or change but just give me your thoughts on the JD Vance pick.
I think it was probably the worst pick he could have made, except for maybe Kristi Noem at this point. I think Marco Rubio would have been a huge, huge pick. And I don't believe much that vice presidential picks change the trajectory of a race. That Mike Madrid stuff that you're going to hear time and time again. But JD Vance was particularly bad because he reinforces all the extreme bad elements of what causes consternation with Donald Trump in the first place. And more importantly, it was a base move. It was a conservative defensive move. He didn't pick Tim Scott to go get black votes. He didn't pick up Marco Rubio to get Latino votes. He didn't pick Nikki Haley to go get female votes. He picked JD Vance to get the hillbilly vote. And it's like, you already got the hillbilly vote. Like, how much more do you think you're going to grind out of this? And in what states is that going to matter? Which then makes me think, okay, this is about Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. And that's fair. That gives you some credence. But if you were as strong as you're posturing that you are, if you keep saying you're expanding the map, the way CNN's got, Trump winning 370 electoral votes, or the fuck they're saying now, you don't pick JD Vance. And in some ways, that's good from a campaign professional's perspective. They're recognizing we got to play for the 270 map and don't get crazy on this. But if you're as strong as you think you are, there are enough tested, positive, aspirational voices to balance out Donald Trump's negativity and anger and grievance to fucking go pick up 3 or 4 more states. So I think this was a bad pick. I don't think it helps them at all. I think it's a net negative. Again, I think it's marginal, but in a race where margins are everything and margins matter, I would say on a list of 5 people of who he should have picked, I would put him 6th on that list. How about you?
I feel mostly the same way. I think that it's interesting. It's more interesting to me that JD Vance is 39. It's just a contrast of these two old dudes that are running against each other. Does people vote for Donald Trump? Nobody's voting for Donald Trump because of JD Vance. I know that for a fact. That's just, I agree with that 110. I think of it maybe more long term, right? Like I think about what's JD Vance bring if Donald Trump is elected. And you have a 40-year-old VP. Donald Trump can only serve one term, supposedly, unless he changes the Constitution. And then what does 28 look like if I'm putting together, there will be no less than 20 Democrats, if there's not 40 Democrats running for president in 28, if Donald Trump wins and JD Vance is the nominee and whoever's the VP, Donald Trump Jr., whoever craziness they come up with. And so in my mind, I'm thinking of everything strategically about contrast and how do I contrast JD Vance? JD Vance is going to be whatever JD Vance needs to be to win or what he thinks is going to reach people. And I said this on CNN the day he was picked. I said, Donald Trump is not worried about gaining Black or Latino votes with this pick. He wants to your point, try to see how many more white rednecks in Harrisburg or out in the countryside of Michigan he can get to show up and feed more. And that's a strategy. Right. I mean, that's a strategy that could work. But to me and you, we know there's not as many of those people as he could have gotten doing something else differently with an electorate like Latinos or Black people who are at least curious to hear what he has to say.
Right.
You know, and who are regular voters, most of them. Where these white rednecks who never went to college are just like a lot of my family and me back in the day is like, what? Like it takes a lot for those folks to go vote if they're not used to voting. So I don't think it does anything. It'll be interesting to see the contrast between him and Kamala Harris, especially when they debate each other. I don't know much about Kamala and her debating skills and stuff. She's from California. What do you think, Mike, between the contrast between the two of those when they go head to head?
I mean, I'm not really big on debate. You know.
Oh, that's right. The debate really don't matter. But I guess I meant the contract of the visuals, the ads.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I get it. And I think I really do want to see this one because it's going to be the first substantive debate that it will be substantive. And that's different than Trump, who's a showman and he's up there for the spectacle, and Biden, who's having trouble, articulating a whole lot of what the hell he stands for. I mean, the presidential debate's an embarrassment. This is actually a little substantive. I mean, they're not going to change anybody's minds. There will be a lot of speculation about what it means for the future of the respective parties. But I think that there will actually be a discussion and a debate, and I am very much looking forward to at least hearing those smatterings of substance in our politics. And I think we're going to get that from both of them.
Well, speaking of that, we are, for those of you who are listening, we're recording this on the third day of the RNC convention. Last night was day 2, and the theme was Make America Safe Again, also known as The Mexicans Are Coming. Also last night, you saw the West Virginia Senate candidate, Jim Justice, get on stage with his bulldog that looked exactly like my former bulldog, who I had to go on Facebook this morning and let all my Facebook friends know that my former dog, Apache, had not changed parties, but was living comfortably just down the street with my ex. So I put that out there and I said in the post, I wish that last part was a lie, but it is not. And so what have you thought about the first few days of the RNC convention? Mike?
Look, I think it's a different party, man. It's just such a different party than conventions I've been to in the past and organized stuff for in the past. A lot of reporters saying you're going to be there. And I'm like, absolutely no freaking way would Mike Madrid be there. First of all, I wouldn't recognize it or feel comfortable. Second is I'd be a security threat because half the people there want to hang me with the gallows that they built for Mike Pence. So no way is Mike Madrid going to be there. But in terms of their messaging, I mean, they are getting their message out. I don't know that it's doing much to convince other people. And like I said, the more they're in the spotlight, the more I think it reminds people of who they are. And that's not a positive, by the way. The rolling averages right now, if you look at the rolling numbers, Trump got no balance after this assassination attempt. When they thought he was going to be a martyr and he's going to win the 400 electoral votes or whatever. I think the same thing's going to happen with this convention. I think it's a lot of it is just there. Look, if you're not selling anything good, there's only so much lipstick you can put on that pig. How's that?
I like it when Mike Madrid makes pig references. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I just don't know that there's any way you can pretty it up any more than what it actually is. And that's the problem Republicans have right now, is they're not able to really, I think, change or deflect voters' attention on who they are. That's the only way they win, by the way. That's the only way. That's again, it bothers the shit out of me what's happening with the Biden stuff, because it's just snatching defeat from the jaws of victory here. Is they've got to Democrats have got to pivot. They've got to get back on offense. And if they do, they'll win. If they don't, they're going to lose, maybe in a historic fashion, not because of Biden's age, but because of a lack of party discipline. And for to the Republicans' credit, they do have that. And that's how you win with a losing hand in politics, is you just keep walking down the field, march down the field, march to the sound of the drummer, ignore the hot lead that's flying, and just keep marching. There's no other way but through. And Republicans really understand that. And that's what we're seeing at the convention today. What's your impression the first couple of days?
First of all, he said lipstick on a pig and hot lead flying in the same paragraph. So for all of you out there, we meant just, it's a figure of speech. We're not advocating for any hot lead thrown at anybody, but Republicans will keep walking no matter what's thrown at them, is the way I would have said that, since I'm the one with the criminal record. Anyway, I digress and would say that after watching this, God, I hate to say this on air because it's being recorded and y'all put this on the podcast. But look, Mike Madrid, here's the thing that's bothered me the most about this convention. It's going to make you all happy. Is they went to the floor of the convention the first night. And I'm not going to say anything about the Texas delegation in those cowboy hats, right? Like 3/4, 80, 90% of them people ain't never seen a cow. They ain't never smelt a cow. And they ain't never had their hand up in a cow's ass or nothing. Nothing that makes you a real cowboy like I am. I wear a lot of cowboy hats, but I have been around a lot of cattle. Unlike a lot of those folks are just like Ann Richards would say, and sometimes that there's a lot of hats and no cattle. But what bothered me the most is when you went to the floor of that convention, and I watched some Fox News. I'll put that out there. I watched me a little Fox News to see, because I wanted to see what was going on the floor. And Jesse Waters had people out talking to folks in the crowd like they do. But when they put the microphone in the faces of these people and said, "Why are you here? What do you think about this stuff?" This is what I heard. I heard, regular people now have a voice in politics. Bring jobs back to America. I heard, we're fighting the crooked system. I heard that we are getting rid of the powerful being, and Donald Trump is going to return government back to the people. I'd heard something else about jobs and manufacturing. All the things that I heard were things that you could have heard at a 1988 Democratic convention, a 1990 convention, a 96 convention, which I was at with Bill Clinton. And that at its core is what's wrong with my party. And that is that we have let these people bastardize our messaging around Donald Trump, who could give a shit about bringing jobs back to America. He is a great carnival barker and politician, and people don't give him credit for being a great political, theatrical person. He'll say whatever he needs to say. I would take you to the recorded phone call he was having with JFK Jr. Around vaccines. He'll say whatever he needs to say. And it really made me sad, because I was like, those are the reasons these Republicans on the convention floor are saying why I joined the Democratic Party in 1990. And so it just made me take a step back and be like, if you go to the floor of the Democratic convention that's going to happen in 3 weeks, are you going to hear that? Are you going to hear, we're here because we want to bring jobs back to America? We're here because we want to make sure the little guy has a voice, the little woman, the person who has no voice in our society. And I think that's really what struck me the most about the convention, the speakers and the bulldog on stage. And last night they had a round robin of all the folks that Donald Trump had whooped their ass. And they all got on stage and bent the knee and literally kissed the ring as he stood there in his little box with JD. And I know he loved it, but that's what sat with me. I don't know what your reaction is to any of that, but that's what's bothered me the most.
Well, look, and this is the appeal of Latino men to the Republican Party. It's populism. It's not conservatism. It's populism. It's anti-establishment. It's anti-system. And the danger of populism, and one of the reasons why I'm so troubled by why it's taking root in the Latino community, is because it has no answers. It doesn't prescribe any answers, but it's really good at pointing out the problem, whether it's real or imagined. And I'm not suggesting that there isn't some basis in reality for this, but it's one of the things I've never liked about the Democratic Party, to be honest with you. It's always pointing the finger of blame. It's always saying your problems are because of somebody else. Your problems are because of somebody else, the system, the man, the this, the that. And so I hear you. But the problem with working man politics is it very often ignores solutions. It more often seeks to place the blame than it fixes the blame, not fixes the problems. That's what I'm going to say. Is if you can't sell data to working class people. I grew up working class. I grew up in a poor family, and we don't talk about that much on the show for a whole lot of reasons. But we had to make those decisions between the gas bill, the phone bill, or the mortgage every month. And so I get that. I understand. I know what that way of life is. But we were never, ever allowed to blame anybody for our circumstances. And that's all that the Republican Party is today, is grievance politics. And what really troubles me is so many of our men are attracted to that politics where it is just about being grievance. It's just about being pissed off. And the whole point is tearing down the system. And what's ironic is so much is going right in this economy. So much is going right in this country. You look at all of what is, there's so much that is going better and going good. To have this level of angst and anger at the country and the need to tear stuff down is, it says something about us as human beings, but it says something more about us as Americans. And it's just deeply, deeply troubling.
So let's move on to our last point, and then we'll open it up for general discussion. Me and Mike have had a lot to cover, and Mike touched on it earlier. And, Mike has been one of the few people out there talking about the Biden stuff and all the folks who are now, calling for Biden to step down. Is there going to be a brokered convention? Is all of the noise out there? I'm going to not give my opinion until after Mike, but I think Mike has had some feelings about this that I don't think folks would understand coming from a Republican unless you've actually been in a campaign and understand the harm you are doing this close to an election. And it's not just harm to Joe Biden. It's how you run against Donald Trump that Mike Madrid knows something about.
Yeah, and that's to me like, look, I was I did a post-debate panel at the Aspen Ideas Festival. I was on stage with a woman who does focus groups and positions herself as kind of this vote whisperer or something. And first of all, nobody uses focus groups to determine the trajectory of a political campaign. But the meltdown, this woman was in tears on stage and saying it's over and pulling her hair out and stuff. And the notion that political professionals would behave the way they're behaving is beyond me. There's no. Let me put it this way. I don't want to say there's no evidence saying that Biden should be replaced, but what I will say is nobody has made the case that it would be better with some unnamed alternative. And anybody who's run a campaign thinking that it's just going to be some sweet ride with a coronation with a new candidate riding unicorns, jumping over rainbows and gold rain falling down from the skies with some new Democratic candidate is freaking naive. And the fact that they're trying to sell this bullshit is just unbelievable. So you've got a situation where the numbers aren't moving. You've got two deeply flawed candidates. Let me say that again. Two deeply flawed candidates. Donald Trump had a very, very bad debate. The independent vote in the New York Times Siena poll, the one that got everyone all worked up, showed Biden increased his vote share with independents. People know where Biden's at. They know that he's old. They know that he's feeble, but they also know that Donald Trump is a much bigger threat. And so I look at this as a political professional, just like as a general who's hired and conscripted to go to war between two sides where there's not a whole hell of a lot of stake other than I want the country to succeed. I'm certainly not going to be backing the Republicans. Everybody knows that. But I'm not a Democrat. They don't know me. They don't trust me. A lot of them don't like me. And I'm completely comfortable with that. but I sure as hell can assess an army. I sure as hell can look at a campaign. And when I look at what the Democrats are doing, it is immoral. It is sinful. It is fucking stupid. And it's just crazy that it's allowed to spin this far out of control. And what I will say is a lot of legacies are going to be destroyed in this. Maybe it's Joe Biden's. Maybe he gets wiped out by 10 points. And, the Republicans pick up a veto-proof Senate, and they pick up 100 seats, 1,000 seats in the Congress. I don't know. But what I will say is, if he wins, Nancy Pelosi has a black eye on her legacy forever. Barack Obama looks awful. George Clooney is a clown. The pod bros need to just disappear and go away. Like the fact that so many members of the establishment are pushing for a change with no plan, none, is just criminal at this point in the election cycle. It's beyond me. And so unless they know something that the public doesn't know, and that may be the case, but if it is, lay it out. Let's hear it. But until then, this is absolutely not the way to conduct a palace coup, because it is so damaging, not just to the prospects of losing to Donald Trump, for God's sakes, but for losing the Senate, losing the House, and this bullshit argument that they're somehow helping democracy by just having a healthy debate it doesn't pass the smell test. And they got to get their shit together quickly and just put on your big boy pants, big girl pants, and start helping out, rather than shooting your own guy in the back, fragging him, as they used to call it in Vietnam, shooting your own guy in the back while everybody else is, got a twist in the wind. They're going to be okay. All these, wealthy, people of influence are going to be fine. It's the average American that's going to have to suffer. So obviously I have some very strong feelings about it. But most of all, I think as a Republican who has sacrificed so much of my career, of my reputation, of my business, to be out there on the side of this fight and then have to watch this go on is just it's not just malpractice. It's beyond that. It's shameful.
So I have some strong feelings about this, and they're a little different than Mike's, and it has to do with timing. And if we want to have this conversation as a party, not me and Mike, but if the party wants to have this conversation, the time to have had this conversation was 2 years ago. And there's a process. And if we didn't think that Joe Biden was up to the task, we should have had a primary and had people run against each other and had a primary. The thing that is very ironic, and I don't know if I'm using the ironic word right, Mike can correct my English, but the thing to me that I think is funny is that the same people who said we don't need to have a primary more or less told lots of Democrats out there, you better not be running against Joe. Joe's running again, and we're all going to get behind Joe, is now the one saying he should go and we should find somebody else. And it's different folks within the party or within Congress or within wherever. And I said this on TV the other night too, and this will make you laugh, Mike. It's the same group of party folks who also told everybody that was running in that primary with Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders that they had to get out after South Carolina and they had to get behind Joe before Bernie Sanders became the nominee. Same people.
Interesting.
So you can't have all of this thing and have it all your way. And they're used to having it all their way. And I'm with you on it's too late now. And we can still beat him. And I'm with you on all of that. I'm just saying that there's never any accountability in politics in our industry. Me and you both know that. So we can sit here and think that somebody's going to have a stain on their record or whatever. And maybe they'll have somebody talk some shit, especially if he wins. But me and you both know that all of these white folks have failed up their entire career.
Yeah.
And so that really angers me. And I'm not out here saying Joe Biden shouldn't have run and we should have had a primary. I'm just saying we should have had that conversation then when we could.
Yeah.
And let's do it. I've run primaries against Joe Biden. I've run primaries against Hillary Clinton. I also am working for a shit ton of House races right now that we need to win. I'm also working for Ruben Gallego that's got to win Arizona. Like I'm party to the core, and I'm party before everything else. And I'll get in line and I'll do all the things. And I've been a delegate to every convention since 1996. And that's where you pick the delegate because they've already been a primary. When those delegates are assigned, sure, there's some little loophole where they can change their mind and y'all can hang on to that if you want to. And that's fine. But I'm just saying that there was a time and a place to do this. And you can't be coming in here at the last minute, changing your mind when you were the one who told us we couldn't have a primary 2 years ago. So that's.
And when does it stop? That's what I don't get. Like they're saying it's going to happen with the nominee. Bullshit. They're going to be backbiting all the damn way. If they're coming out this viscerally, this strongly, knifing the guy in the back, they're not going to stop after he's nominated. They're not going to stop after convention. This is going to go all the damn way to November.
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting that as you see it play out, and you saw it slow down a little bit after the assassination attempt, they're running out of time. Today in all of the networks and all of the news, it's about they're going to have a virtual a nomination process because they want to get on the Ohio ballot, even though, and I give here again, Republicans will get in line. Republicans have already changed the rules in Ohio, and they're like, no, we're good. Y'all can wait and do it at the convention. We'll be fine over here. We've changed our law in the state. Republican Senate, Republican House, Republican governor said, we already changed our rules. We will wait for you folks to finish in Chicago. Y'all just take your time. And the DNC is like, nope, we're going to do it the first week of August. So I would just say, screw your wigs on tight, ladies, because it's going to get fun. So we're going to see what's going to happen. We're either going to shoot ourselves in the foot. One thing for sure, and we should talk about this, Mike, is I will be there. Me and Ebony both are going. I could drag one of these little microphones out there, and we probably should do that our regular recording day, which is on Wednesday.
Oh, for sure.
And I can do it from there. And if you have time, or if you want to come, I don't know if you can get a room or whatever. We should figure out we have enough time to plan it. But whatever, I'll be there regardless because I want to go to the parties.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing TV from there too. I just forgot.
Yeah, let's think about that. I mean, I've got some people there from. Let's talk about that.
We like to do our show. Sorry.
I certainly want you there live, but we will definitely get some of the inside happenings from Chuck Rocha on the floor of the convention in Chicago. We'll see if Mike Madrid's got the temerity. That's a good word for you. The temerity to show.
Temerity. Is that a cousin of the tomato?
It's a mater. Tomato.
We just take the T out in the South and we call them maters. But I can see me now walking around like those guys on the thing with my phone. Andres is going to have to show me how to do voice notes. And I can go up to people, for those of you watching on YouTube, and be like, what do you think, Senator, about what's going on with this thing? Can you give I'm here with the official press pass of the Latino Vote podcast. Tell me what you think.
Yeah. We'll do some good clips too for YouTube and social media to get them out.
Oh my God, I got to ask you about this in case you didn't see it. I retweeted it this morning. Did you see the guy take on Gates on the floor?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, that was so effing funny. Tell the listeners what happened.
So, Kevin McCarthy, what the hell? I don't know what the hell Kevin's doing there. He just can't help himself. Shows up on the floor of the convention and is live on CNN. Matt Gaetz decides to kind of bust up his press conference and starts, giving him, barking at him. Kevin McCarthy then starts shifting his entire message off the question he was asked to go after Gaetz, talking about him sleeping with a 17-year-old. These guys are about to come to fisticuffs, which would have been kind of funny to watch the two of them. Would look like a cat fight. And behind Matt Gaetz is a delegate from, I think, Pennsylvania, much taller guy, a little bit more stout, and who says, "Hey, Gaetz, why can't you just quit being an asshole?" Is the word he used. And Gaetz kind of turns to him and looks up to him, like slowly looks up. It's like in a cartoon when you turn around and you're staring straight at some guy's chest, and then slowly look up into his eyes and realize, oh shit, I better get the hell out of here. And kind of stands himself down and says, I'm kind of a don't you know who I am, as he slinks away and walks away really quickly. I'm sure that's the moment you're talking about. Is that what we're talking about here?
That is. And you've described the chef kiss, but you didn't give it enough. I don't know the fancy word. Validity, temerity, cocky masculinity. So when Gaetz is barking at McCarthy, he's looking at him, he's barking at him while McCarthy's giving an interview. And then Bates spins around and this guy goes, "Gaetz, you're an asshole." And Gaetz looks at his chest, looks up into his eyes and says, "I don't even know who you are." And the guy looks back at him, down at him, and goes, "It don't matter who I am. You're still an asshole." That was the chef's kiss. I was like, I don't retweet stupid shit like that very often, but I was like, I'm retweeting that.
Yeah, it was. Conventions are great for that stuff, but this is a blood feud between the two of those guys, Gates and Kevin McCarthy, who really hate each other, and that's going to last for the rest of their lives. It ain't going to blow over with time. That's a deep seated blood feud, and I think we'll get more clips from the two of them over the coming years. So be ready to retweet.
So that brings us to the end of the show. Next week, we're going to be talking about wrapping up the RNC convention. Next week, we'll probably see if this get Biden out thing has happened. And as we lead into the summertime, you're going to hear us getting more and more granular about this vote that's probably going to determine everything that we've been talking about and shipping about. We really appreciate all of you tuning in this week. Don't forget to follow us. Don't forget to like us. Don't forget to call your mama. I know it's summertime. Get out of the heat. Get in the shade. Until next time, me and Mike Madrid will see you on the other side.
See you next week.